The night my son told me to pack a bag and leave my own house, I was still sleeping on the same side of the bed where my wife used to sleep. Her pillow was still there. Her reading glasses were still on the nightstand. And downstairs my son was drinking coffee from the mug she bought me for our 25th anniversary, telling me I had become too difficult to live with. I wish I could tell you I yelled. I did not. I just stood there in the hallway, one hand on the wall, listening to the boy I raised explain why I no longer belonged in the house my wife and I spent 31 years paying for. Then he left for a vacation using my credit card. And 3 days later, when he came home, the house was gone. Not burned down. Not stolen. Just no longer his to control. My name is Raymond Cole. I am 67 years old, retired from the City Transit Department in Richmond, Virginia, and until last year, I thought the hardest thing I would ever survive was losing my wife. Her name was Diane. She had been my wife for 38 years. The kind of woman who could make a grocery list feel like a love letter. The kind who remembered every birthday, every neighbor's sick parent, every little thing I forgot, because she carried the emotional weight of our whole family without making a performance out of it. When Diane got sick, our son Matthew was there at first. He visited the hospital. He brought flowers. He called every few days. And when she passed away in November, he stood beside me at the funeral in a black suit, one hand on my shoulder, looking every bit like the grieving son people expected him to be. I believed him. That was my mistake. 2 weeks after the funeral, Matthew came to my house with his wife, Lauren, and their 9-year-old daughter, Sophie. He said they were having some temporary issues with their apartment lease. He said the landlord was raising the rent. He said they needed a place for a few weeks while they figured things out. Then he looked at me with red eyes and said, "Dad, you should not be alone right now anyway." That sentence got me, not because it was clever, because it sounded like Diane. She would have wanted family nearby. She would have wanted laughter in the house again. She would have wanted Sophie running through the hallway and leaving toys under the couch and asking me for pancakes on Saturday mornings. So I said yes. For the first month, I even felt grateful. Lauren cooked dinner twice a week. Sophie sat with me after school and asked questions about her grandmother. Matthew fixed a loose cabinet door in the kitchen and told me not to worry about anything. But slowly, the house stopped feeling like mine. It started with little things. Matthew moved my old recliner into the basement because he said it made the living room look dated. Lauren replaced Diane's curtains with grey ones without asking. The family photos in the hallway disappeared one afternoon and were placed in a cardboard box in the garage because Lauren said the wall needed a cleaner look. I found Diane's wedding portrait leaning against a lawnmower. That was the first time I felt something cold move through me. I asked Matthew why her picture was in the garage. He barely looked up from his phone. "Dad, Lauren is trying to make the space more livable." The space. Not your home. Not Mom's house. The space. I should have understood then. But grief makes you generous in dangerous ways. You start thinking every boundary is selfish because you are afraid of being alone. So I kept quiet. Then in February, I noticed charges on my credit card. A hotel in Miami, 2 airline tickets, a spa charge, a restaurant I could not pronounce. At first I thought someone had stolen my card. Then I saw the name on the reservation confirmation, Matthew Cole. I called him into the kitchen that evening. He walked in wearing sunglasses on top of his head, even though it was dark outside. I had the statement on the table between us. "Did you use my card?" He looked at it for about 2 seconds. Then he sighed. That sigh told me more than the answer. "Dad, we were going to pay you back." "You used my card for a vacation?" "It was not just a vacation," he said. "Lauren and I needed a break." I stared at him. My wife had been dead for 3 months. And my son needed a break. I asked him how much he had charged. He told me not to worry about it. That was when I knew the number was bigger than I wanted to hear. I said, "Matthew, you need to stop using my account." His face changed. Not guilty. Annoyed. "You do not understand how expensive life is right now." I almost laughed. I had worked 41 years. I had paid for his college tuition. I had helped with the down payment on his first car. I had covered medical bills when Sophie was born. And now he was standing in my kitchen, telling me I did not understand expense. But I still kept my voice calm. Do not use my card again." He nodded once, then walked away. 3 days later, he told me to leave. It was a Tuesday night, rain against the windows, the kind Diane used to love because it gave her an excuse to make soup. Lauren was upstairs packing for the Miami trip. Sophie was at a friend's house. Matthew was standing by the dining room table, where Diane and I had celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, every important moment of our lives. He said I had been creating tension. I asked what that meant. He said I questioned too much. He said I made Lauren uncomfortable. He said I kept bringing up the past. Then he looked directly at me and said, "Maybe you should pack a bag and stay somewhere else for a while." I did not answer immediately. I looked around the room. At the grandfather clock, Diane picked out at an antique store. At the small scratch on the hardwood floor, from when Matthew learned to ride his toy truck indoors. At the framed photo of him in his baseball uniform. And I realized something painful. My son had not forgotten where he came from. He had simply decided he no longer needed to respect it. So I said, "All right." He blinked. So I think he expected an argument. I went upstairs, packed one overnight bag, and drove to my sister's house across town. But I did not sleep. At 2:14 in the morning, I sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea and called my attorney. His name was Harold Grant. We had known each other for years. I told him I needed to understand every option available to me. Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed my home back. By morning, I had cancelled the credit card. I froze the secondary account Matthew had access to. I changed every password connected to my finances. And then Harold told me something I had forgotten. The house was fully in my name. Diane and I had set it up that way years ago after her father passed. We never thought it would matter, but now it did. Matthew and Lauren left for Miami that Friday. I watched them pull out of my driveway through the window of my sister's living room. Lauren wore a white sun hat. Matthew loaded expensive luggage into the trunk. Sophie waved at me from the back seat. That part hurt. She did not understand any of it. Before they left, Matthew sent me a message. "Please do not make this harder than it needs to be." I read it 3 times. Then I forwarded it to Harold. While they were on vacation, I went back to my house with 2 movers, a locksmith, and a storage company. I did not throw away their things. I packed everything carefully. Their clothes, their furniture, Sophie's toys, Lauren's kitchen appliances, Matthew's work equipment. Every box labeled, every item photographed, every detail documented. Then I changed the locks. I also listed the house, not out of anger, out of clarity. That house had become a mausoleum for Diane and a battleground for me. I could not heal there anymore. A month later, it sold to a young couple with a baby on the way. They loved the big windows and the backyard. The wife cried when she saw Diane's old rose bushes. She said she could picture her children playing there. That was when I knew I had made the right decision. Matthew came home from Miami on Monday afternoon. His card had declined at the airport, then again at the rental car desk, then again when he tried to order lunch. By the time he reached the house, he was furious. He called me 6 times. I let the phone ring. Finally, I answered. "Dad, what did you do?" I was sitting on the porch of my new apartment near the river, a smaller place, quiet, clean, mine. "I protected myself," I said. "You cannot just lock us out." "I can, and I did." He went silent. Then his voice changed. "Where are we supposed to go?" For a moment, I heard the little boy he used to be, the one who climbed into my bed after thunderstorms, the one who called me when he got his first flat tire. But then I remembered Diane's portrait in the garage. I remembered my own son telling me to pack a bag. And I said, "You told me to leave my own home. I took your advice." He started apologizing. Lauren started texting. Messages about misunderstandings, stress, pressure, promises that things would be different. But some apologies only arrive after comfort disappears. And by then they are not apologies. They are negotiations. I did not hate my son. That is the part people do not understand. I still loved him. I probably always will. But love without boundaries becomes permission. And I had given him too much permission for too long. Today I live in a 2-bedroom apartment overlooking the James River. I volunteer twice a week at a community workshop teaching young people basic home repair. Sophie visits me on Sundays. just her. We make pancakes. We walk by the water. I tell her stories about her grandmother. Matthew is working again. He and Lauren moved into a smaller rental outside the city. I hear he is learning what things cost when nobody else quietly pays for them. And maybe that is not revenge. Maybe it is simply reality arriving late. Diane used to tell me that a house is not made of walls. It is made of the people who protect the peace inside it. For a while I thought protecting peace meant accepting disrespect. Now I know better. Sometimes protecting your peace means changing the locks. And sometimes it means leaving the house behind before someone else turns your memories into a place you no longer recognize.